In the heart of a quiet African village, life was simple. People farmed during the day, shared food in the evenings, and told stories around the fire at night. Everything was peaceful until one day, a mysterious woman arrived. Her name was Nia. No one knew where she came from. She did not have family in the village, and she carried no belongings except a small red cloth bag. She built a small hut at the edge of the village, close to the thick forest, and started living there alone. Nia was extraordinarily beautiful. Her skin was smooth, her eyes shined like the moon, and her smile made men forget their worries. Every man who saw her felt drawn to her, like a moth drawn to fire. Women in the village noticed how their husbands and sons looked at Nia, but they stayed quiet. Unlike other women, Nia never refused anyone. If a man admired her, she welcomed him warmly. She laughed easily, she spoke gently, and she opened her hut to any man who asked. This made her even more famous. The men called her the kind one because she never said no. But the old women in the village whispered among themselves. They watched her carefully and said, "A woman this beautiful cannot be ordinary. She is too open, too free. Something is not right about her." Still, no one listened to the warnings. To the men, Nia was a gift from the gods. To the women, she was a danger. And to the children, she was a mystery. From the day Nia arrived, life in the village began to change, but not in a way anyone expected. As days passed, Nia became the center of attention in the village. Men often left their farms early just to pass by her hut. Young boys, curious and fearless, tried to peek through the small window to see if the rumors about her were true. And each night, someone was seen entering her crimson hut. The women of the village were uneasy. They gathered at the river where they washed clothes and shared their worries in low voices. The oldest woman, Mama Juma, was the first to speak. "My mother's warned me of women like her. A beauty too perfect is not a blessing, it is a curse." The younger women listened carefully. Some agreed, others thought Mama Juma was only jealous of Nia's beauty. But Mama Juma insisted. She told them that long ago, there were stories of spirits who walked in the form of women. These spirits, known as age in old tales, would welcome men, but later feed on their strength and soul. Another elder added, "Look closely, her eyes shine too brightly at night. And she never fetches water from the river, never joins us in the market, never cooks at the fire. What kind of woman lives like that?" The warnings spread like smoke, but the men refused to believe them. To them, Nia was kind, gentle, and giving. Every man who spent time with her claimed he felt alive, like his worries had melted away. "Do not let your sons near her," Mama Juma warned. "Her beauty is a net. Once a fish enters, it never swims back out." But her words fell on deaf ears. The young men laughed at the warnings, saying the old women were just envious. They called Nia a blessing from the ancestors. Little did they know that Mama Juma's fears were true, and soon, the first sign of danger would appear. Among all the young men who admired Nia, one was the strongest and most confident. His name was Tay. He was a tall hunter, known for killing the biggest antelopes and bringing meat to the village. Women respected him, men envied him, and children followed him like a hero. When Tay decided to visit Nia, everyone noticed. He walked proudly toward her crimson hut one evening, carrying a fresh goat as a gift. The other men teased him, saying, "Tonight, the great hunter will conquer the greatest beauty." He smiled and said nothing. That night, the sound of laughter and soft singing came from Nia's hut. The fire outside her door burned brightly and shadows danced on the walls. But when the morning came, Tay did not return to his home. At first, people thought he was simply resting. But by the second day, he looked different. His strong body seemed weaker. His steps were slow, and his eyes were sunken, like he had not slept in days. By the third day, Tay could not even lift his hunting spear. His skin turned pale, his lips dry, and his once powerful voice was faint. The villagers began to whisper, "Is he cursed? Did he anger the ancestors? Or did the woman do this to him?" Mama Juma shook her head. She knew the truth, but no one listened. On the fourth night, Tay disappeared completely. His family searched the forest, the river, and even the farmlands, but no trace of him was found. The only place no one dared to search was Nia's crimson hut. From that day, the villagers grew divided. Some believed Tay's enemies used dark magic to destroy him. Others quietly blamed Nia, though no man wanted to say it aloud, for fear of losing the chance to be with her. But deep inside, the village knew Tay's disappearance was not natural. It was only the beginning of something far darker. While the villagers searched for Tay in the forest and river, Nia sat quietly in her crimson hut. To anyone passing by, she looked calm and gentle, smiling as always. But inside her hut, the truth was far more terrifying. At midnight, when the moonlight poured through the cracks in her roof, Nia would lock her door and begin her ritual. She would light black candles made of fat that never melted. The walls of her hut were covered with strange symbols drawn in white chalk. Skulls of animals hung from the ceiling, swinging like dead fruit. In the center of the room lay a wooden bowl filled with dark red liquid. It was not palm wine, it was blood. Nia removed the red cloth bag she always carried. From it, she took small bones, hair, and beads that glowed faintly in the firelight. These were the remains of the men she had been with, their life force trapped forever. She sat before the bowl, her eyes turning bright red, her voice deep and unhuman as she chanted, "Great Spirit of the Shadows, I give you what is yours. Feed and keep me beautiful. Feed and keep me young." The blood in the bowl began to bubble as if it were alive. A shadow darker than night rose from the floor, with long fingers and hollow eyes. It was the spirit she served, the ancient demon who gave her beauty in exchange for men's souls. The shadow bent over her, wrapping her body in its darkness. The air grew cold, and faint screams could be heard coming from the walls of the hut. They were the voices of men who had gone missing, crying in pain, begging to be released. Nia smiled as the spirit touched her face. When the ritual ended, her skin became smooth again, her body glowing like a young maiden's. To the villagers, she looked like a blessing. But in truth, she was a cage for stolen souls. And so, every man who entered her hut was not a lover, he was a sacrifice. Among the villagers lived a young man named Oba. Unlike the others, Oba was quiet, thoughtful, and always watched more than he spoke. He was not the strongest hunter, nor the wealthiest farmer, but people respected him for his wisdom. Oba had noticed something strange. Every man who spent a night with Nia grew weaker afterwards. Some complained of terrible dreams, others lost weight quickly, and a few vanished without a trace. First it was Tay, then a farmer, and later even a traveling trader. The pattern was too clear for Oba to ignore. One evening, as the men gathered around the fire, Oba spoke carefully. "Brothers, do you not see? Every man who enters her hut comes out smaller than he was. And some never come out at all." The men laughed loudly. "Are you jealous, Oba?" one asked. "You are too afraid to touch a woman like Nia," another mocked. Even the women, though worried, stayed silent. None dared to accuse Nia openly, for fear that the men would turn against them. But Oba's suspicion only grew stronger. He began to watch her hut at night from a distance. He noticed how no light ever came from her cooking fire, how no one saw her fetch water from the river, and how animals avoided her home as if they sensed danger. One night, Oba saw something that confirmed his fear. As the moonlight shone brightly, he watched Nia walk out of her hut. Her beauty seemed different under the moon, her skin looked pale, almost like ash, and her eyes glowed faintly red. She was whispering to the darkness, as if speaking to someone unseen. Oba felt his heart pound. This was no ordinary woman. He told himself, "If no one believes me, I must find proof with my own eyes. I must know what truly happens inside that hut." From that moment, Oba made a dangerous decision. He would risk his life to uncover Nia's secret. Oba knew that if he told the villagers Nia was dangerous, they would laugh at him again. The only way to convince them was to see the truth with his own eyes. But to do this, he had to take a great risk. One night, when the village was silent and everyone was asleep, Oba crept through the tall grass toward Nia's crimson hut. He moved quietly, careful not to step on dry leaves that could give him away. His heart beat like a drum, and sweat covered his forehead, but his mind was firm. He had to know. He found a small crack in the wooden wall of her hut and pressed his eye against it. What he saw made his blood run cold. Inside, Nia was not the beautiful woman the village knew. Her skin was peeling in patches, like a snake shedding, and her eyes burned red like fire. Around her, black candles flickered, their flames swaying though there was no wind. The air shimmered with heat, and the smell of blood was strong. In the center of the hut was a large bowl of blood. Nia dipped her fingers into it, smearing it across her face like paint. As she chanted in a deep, harsh voice, shadows began to rise from the floor. The shadows had shapes, men's faces, their mouths open in silent screams. Oba recognized one of them. It was Tay, the strong hunter who had disappeared. His face was pale, his eyes hollow, and he seemed to reach out as if begging for help. Oba's heart almost stopped, but he did not move. He watched as a dark figure appeared behind Nia. It was tall, with arms like long smoke and eyes that glowed white. The figure wrapped itself around her, whispering into her ear. Nia laughed, her voice no longer sweet but sharp and cold. "Yes, master," she said. "I will bring more. They come to me willingly. They never suspect." Oba stepped back, his body trembling. He knew the truth now. Nia was not a woman at all, but a servant of a dark spirit. The men who went to her were not lovers, they were sacrifices. That night, Oba swore to himself, "I cannot stay silent. I must save my people, even if it costs me my life." But he also knew one thing: if Nia discovered he had seen her secret, she would come for him next. The next morning, Oba gathered the courage to speak with the elders of the village. His face was pale, his voice heavy, but his words were clear. "I have seen what she is. Nia is not a woman. She is a servant of a dark spirit. The men who go to her do not return whole. Their souls are trapped in her hut." At first, the elders doubted him. But Oba's seriousness and the strange disappearances weighed heavily on their hearts. Mama Juma, the old woman who had warned them before, stood up with her walking stick and said, "I believe him. I have seen this kind of evil in my youth. If we delay, more men will vanish. We must act now." That evening, when the sky was heavy with dark clouds and thunder rumbled in the distance, the elders, Oba, and a few brave men gathered before Nia's crimson hut. They carried charms, carved staffs, and gourds filled with sacred water. Oba stood at the front, shaking but determined. The elders began to chant ancient prayers, calling on the ancestors for protection. Their voices rose like drums in the night. Suddenly, the door of the crimson hut burst open. Nia stepped out, no longer hiding her true form. Her eyes glowed like burning coals, and her smile twisted into something cruel. Her skin rippled as if something moved beneath it. The men gasped, some stepping back in fear. But the elders held firm. "You cannot fool us anymore, demon," one elder shouted. "This village rejects you. Tonight, you will be destroyed." Nia laughed, a sound that sent chills through every heart. The wind howled, the fire torches flickered, and the ground trembled beneath their feet. From inside her hut, the shadows of dead men wailed, filling the air with sorrow. With a scream, Nia raised her hands, and dark smoke shot out, wrapping around the villagers like snakes. Some fell to the ground, choking. Others clutched their heads as voices whispered in their ears. But the elders continued chanting, louder and stronger. They poured sacred water on the ground, and it hissed like hot iron. Oba raised his staff and shouted with all his strength, "By the power of the ancestors, be gone." A blinding light burst forth from the charms, striking Nia. She shrieked, her body twisting, her beauty melting away. For a moment, the dark spirit rose behind her, tall and terrible. It tried to resist, but the chants of the elders bound it like chains. The battle raged until the storm above broke, rain pouring down like cleansing fire. Finally, with one last scream, Nia and the shadow spirit were pulled back into the hut, which exploded into flames. The crimson hut burned to ashes. The cries of trapped souls faded into silence. The village stood in shock, the battle won, but not without cost. 2 elders lay dead, and many men were too weak to stand. Oba looked at the ashes, knowing this night would never be forgotten.